Everyone wants awakening to be, but trust me, you're missing the brutal, raw truth no one talks about. The real journey starts now, and you won't believe what I'm about to reveal. Stick around. The end will shatter everything you think you know. We all wish for awakening to be a beautiful, serene experience, picturing it as some golden state of bliss and perfection. However, the reality of awakening is often a brutal and jarring process. It can feel like the ground is violently ripped out from under you, less like discovering a new heaven and more like a terrifying descent into losing your very mind. You might not recognize the person staring back from the mirror, and the unsettling thought that you're dying might creep in. In a profound sense, you are. It's not the familiar self you've meticulously guarded all these years that's emerging, but the authentic self that has been patiently buried beneath all the protective layers. This is the paradoxical start, because the moment you genuinely awaken, the entire world you once trusted begins to collapse around you. You'll confront the startling realization of how much of your life was constructed upon delicate illusions. The ingrained rules, deep-seated beliefs, fervent ambitions, and even your most cherished relationships. What once appeared undeniably solid now feels paper-thin, leaving your entire existence feeling upside down. This initiates the difficult but necessary task of unlearning, shedding falsehoods you never even knew were shaping your life. Yet, in this vast, newly emptied space, freedom doesn't necessarily follow. Instead, a profound sense of being lost can set in. You may enter familiar rooms and feel like a stranger, even among loved ones, your laughter echoing with a strange hollowness. An intense ache of disconnection might grip you, sharp enough to feel like an exile. Awakening doesn't graciously bestow belonging, rather, it meticulously strips it away first. This often leads to the profound and unsettling question: if I can no longer rely on the old foundations and no new ones have emerged yet, where on earth am I supposed to stand? The initial phase of this journey, often called the shattering, doesn't arrive gently. It doesn't whisper comforting reassurances or appear in a peaceful meditation. Instead, it storms into your life, relentlessly tearing apart the existence you meticulously built and believed was yours. It can feel distinctly like a monumental failure, even a harsh punishment, as if life itself has turned against you. In these moments, it doesn't feel spiritual at all. One day, you might confidently believe yourself to be someone defined by your accomplishments, your innate talents, and your carefully laid plans, living within an image the world seems to affirm. Then, abruptly, the storm hits. Everything begins to crumble. A partner you leaned on might leave. The career you dedicated years to building falls apart. Your financial security vanishes, or your health unexpectedly betrays you. Sometimes life takes just one cherished piece. Other times, it sweeps them all away. Imagine a surgeon, the master of precision, losing his hands, the very essence of his professional existence, the core of his identity. Suddenly, there's nothing left to uphold his sense of self. His career, his pride, his very identity were built upon those hands, and then, in a single, devastating accident, they are gone. While wealth can be rebuilt and lost, lovers potentially replaced, losing the singular thing you staked your entire existence upon leaves you unable to even lift a coffee cup. Who is he now? Nothing of the old image, the carefully constructed ego, remains. What is left is a raw, naked truth you desperately wish to avoid. Without these external props, you realize you are not the powerful, accomplished somebody you believed yourself to be. You feel small, profoundly weak, and utterly powerless, looking in the mirror not at a master of your destiny, but at a frightened human being. The carefully constructed image of years shatters into a million pieces, replaced by pure, undeniable pain. This is rock bottom. This is the core suffering stage, where you learn, not theoretically, but through lived agony, that you are not invincible. You are small. You are undeniably breakable. Here, the ego does not willingly surrender. It fights with fierce desperation, rages, and clings to every last vestige of what was. You will likely try to climb back, to mend broken relationships, to resurrect your career, to desperately force life back into its former comfortable shape. Yet paradoxically, The harder you fight against this new reality, the worse it often becomes. Every frantic attempt to glue the shattered mask back together only accelerates its final disintegration. This is precisely why this stage is so terrifying. For the first phase of awakening isn't about gaining profound insight. It is solely about monumental loss. Life strips you bare, and only in that profound, unbearable emptiness can the true journey even begin. Before any human being can truly surrender to life, they must first be utterly broken by it. While the first stage tears away your foundations, the second, known as the dark night, holds you in that suspended state. This isn't a brief passage. It lingers for months, years, or even decades, an extended purgatory where the ego desperately battles for its very survival. This prolonged phase is characterized by relentless questioning, deep confusion, and the painstaking deconstruction of every old belief system. You now see that the world you once trusted implicitly was, in large part, built upon subtle falsehoods. But this insight, this stark knowing, doesn't immediately set you free. Instead, you might feel as if your entire existence has been an elaborate and cruel joke. What you painstakingly studied, what you dedicated your career to, what you fiercely loved, suddenly it all seems false, flipped upside down. Nothing feels truly solid. Nothing feels completely real. And it is here that the real inner torment truly begins. You try with all your might to live by the truth you've glimpsed, but your entrenched ego simply refuses to allow it. You practice the art of letting go, only to find yourself repeatedly falling back into old patterns. You catch yourself clinging to comfort, performing for validation, or chasing fleeting desires again and again. Each time, your suffering deepens because you're trapped in the very illusion you've already seen through. This is why it's called a night. Not because it's brief, but because it feels absolutely endless. You may wander through years filled with confusion, feeling rejected and profoundly lonely. You discover you cannot return to the person you once were, yet you cannot yet fully stand in the truth of who you are becoming. This is the symbolic crucifixion of the ego, a long, agonizing, dying process stretched out over time. And know this: no one navigates this phase without being profoundly broken again and again. As the old foundations crumble, your mind instinctively begins to search for new footing. You simply cannot revert to your former beliefs, yet you cannot tolerate remaining indefinitely in that echoing void. And so, you embark on a quest. You explore, seeking answers in ancient books, through wise teachers, within various philosophies, religions, and even psychology. Anything that might restore some glimmer of meaning. This marks the stage of seeking. Initially, it might feel like you're collecting disjointed fragments from vastly different traditions. One ancient text says this, another spiritual path says that. A mystic might speak of profound union, while a quantum physicist describes universal energy, and a psychologist delves into the mysterious unconscious. On the surface, these perspectives can appear separate, even contradictory. But if you persist, if you stay with the seeking long enough, a remarkable pattern begins to emerge. You realize that no matter where you look, all these diverse paths are, in essence, pointing in the same fundamental direction. The names may differ, the metaphors might change, but beneath them all lies a single overarching truth. There is no actual separation. The self you've always imagined to be a lonely, isolated ego is, in fact, inseparable from the vast, intricate fabric of all existence. Whether this unifying essence is called God, Tao, Brahman, the universe, or simply life itself, the core essence remains constant. Thus, this quest isn't an aimless wandering. It's more akin to scaling a monumental mountain from countless different sides. The initial paths are varied, the scenery constantly shifts, but the higher you ascend, the clearer it becomes that all these trails converge at the same majestic summit, oneness. This profound realization irrevocably transforms the very meaning of your seeking. You discover that what you tirelessly searched for out there was never separate from what you inherently are in here. The seeker and the sought were never truly distinct entities. The ultimate conclusion of the search isn't the acquisition of an external object, but the internal recognition of a truth that has always been. you are already an intrinsic part of the whole. Once you begin to truly glimpse this underlying unity of all things, the world itself profoundly changes its appearance before your eyes. It feels as though you've been granted an entirely new pair of lenses. What once seemed mundane and ordinary now shimmers with an extraordinary, vibrant quality. The universe is no longer a hostile, random accident, indifferent to your presence. Instead, it begins to reveal itself as a vast, intelligent, and intricate dance, within which you are not a forgotten stranger, but an active, integral participant. This deeply meaningful phase is called awareness. At this stage, you begin to perceive abundance in places where you previously saw only scarcity. Opportunities no longer appear as rare, coveted prizes, but as natural, flowing expressions of life's continuous unfolding. You also start to interact with people in a fundamentally different way. Rather than reducing them to their visible mistakes or flaws, you recognize the underlying hurt and vulnerability that often fuels their behavior. A person who lashes out violently, you realize, isn't inherently evil. They are often deeply wounded, merely protecting themselves in the only way they currently know how. This shift isn't a naive, overly optimistic worldview. It is pure, unflinching clarity. When you intuitively distinguish who people genuinely are from the protective masks they wear, genuine compassion arises naturally within you. And in this same illuminating light, you begin to see your own true nature with far greater honesty. You recognize the moments and ways you have inadvertently betrayed your deepest self, but you also uncover the immense strength and inherent goodness that were always profoundly present within you. This stage is incredibly inspiring, for it profoundly reveals that both you and the world around you are far more whole and interconnected than you ever dared to imagine. As this profound awareness deepens within you, something truly irreversible begins to happen. You start to change. This transformation isn't a forced act of will, but rather a natural evolution. Because the old ways of being simply no longer make any sense to you. You cannot unknow what you now perceive, and you find it impossible to revert to the smaller, more limited self you once believed yourself to be. This is the pivotal stage of transformation. It often feels like shedding an old skin. Perhaps you notice that arguments that once consumed you, draining your energy, no longer hold the same potent charge. You might catch yourself in the midst of a habitual reaction, defending, trying to prove your point, blaming, and suddenly see it clearly for what it truly is, a worn-out pattern. Instead of being swept away by it, you find yourself able to step back, take a breath, and consciously choose a different, more aligned response. Where you once felt an urgent need to control every single outcome, you now begin to sense the liberating freedom of simply allowing life to naturally unfold. True, profound transformation doesn't usually happen when life is perfectly comfortable. It commences when you finally have the courage to face those deeply hidden parts of yourself you've meticulously avoided for years. The raw sting of old disappointments, the deep scars of past betrayals, the solitary nights you cried yourself to sleep, the shame you meticulously buried, the mistakes you swore you'd never forgive yourself for. These aren't weaknesses. They are the vital raw materials for your awakening. This shift can manifest in remarkably simple yet powerful ways. A conversation with a parent that previously triggered waves of guilt now becomes an opportunity to listen openly without taking every word personally. A significant change at work no longer defines your inherent worth, but simply redirects your life path. Even frustrating moments like waiting in traffic can surprisingly shift from irritation to a quiet sense of inner peace. And from this deep shedding process, a profound rebirth ultimately emerges. A new, more authentic sense of self begins to bloom, not the fragile ego relentlessly struggling for recognition, but a deeper, true self that feels profoundly rooted, vibrantly alive, and absolutely authentic. Relationships naturally evolve, priorities realign with your deepest values, and you discover that life moves less like a relentless battle to be won, and more like a powerful, guiding current to be gracefully joined. You find your actions increasingly guided, less by clinging fear and more by an expansive, fundamental trust. This rebirth isn't about striving to become someone entirely new. It's about profoundly remembering who you truly are deep down. It's the courageous beginning of living in true alignment with your deepest discovery, that you are not a tiny fragment battling against the universe, but rather an exquisite, integral expression of the universe itself. And when that understanding transcends mere intellectual concept and is genuinely lived and breathed, felt in every fiber of your being, life takes on a quality that feels simultaneously entirely new and yet profoundly natural. From this core recognition that you are not a disconnected fragment warring against existence, but an undeniable expression of it, springs a profound and irreversible shift in your perception. You begin to feel the delicate yet strong threads of connection, weaving through everything everywhere. What once appeared isolated and separate now unmistakably reveals itself as part of an infinitely larger, intricate fabric. The diverse people you encounter, the challenging obstacles you face, even the most fleeting coincidences, suddenly they don't seem to be happening to you, but rather happening for you. This stage is marked by an undeniable sense of feeling your inherent connection with the universe, often known and described as synchronicity. Life begins to unveil a hidden, intricate order, a subtle rhythm that unfolds with uncanny and precise grace. A book seems to fall directly into your hands at the exact moment you need its wisdom. A complete stranger might speak the very words you desperately needed to hear. An apparent setback or obstacle unexpectedly opens the door to an unforeseen and wonderful opportunity. These occurrences might seem like pure accidents from an external perspective, but from within they are felt as profound guidance. And in this awakened space, any lingering sense of isolation completely dissolves. You come to recognize that you are not aimlessly wandering through a meaningless, chaotic existence, but actively participating in a vibrant, living tapestry where every single thread is intricately connected. Your individuality isn't lost in this grand discovery. Just as a powerful wave remains distinctively a wave while being an inseparable part of the boundless ocean, you remain uniquely yourself while being wholly intertwined with the vast whole. As this awareness deepens, you don't just see your connection. You sense that you are continuously being led, tenderly protected, and consistently provided for at every turn. The same immense intelligence that orchestrates the dance of the stars is intricately moving and guiding you. Once you fully begin to trust this deep truth, fear inevitably loses its potent grip, because you finally know with absolute certainty that you are never truly abandoned, never truly separate, always held within something immeasurable and eternal. You awaken to the powerful realization that you no longer need constant protection from life, because in truth, you are life. And more than that, you deeply love life. Every joyous peak, every crushing fall, every vibrant happiness, every poignant sorrow, each becomes understood as an indispensable part of the same unifying current, gracefully carrying you forward. This represents the ultimate final stage of awakening, the grand awakening of self. You no longer live as a fragile ego perpetually guarding its tiny, insecure corner of existence. Instead, you inhabit life as the boundless awareness underlying it all, open, fully present, and completely unafraid. Surrender emerges here, not as a disheartened resignation, but as a joyful and natural alignment. You cease fighting against the powerful river, and in doing so, discover that it has been lovingly carrying you all along. Choices that once felt agonizingly paralyzing now become crystal clear, not because you meticulously weigh every single risk, but because you instinctively trust the deeper innate movement guiding you. And with this profound awakening comes a tangible sense of oneness. You look at others and no longer see strangers. You recognize yourself beautifully reflected in their eyes, in their silent struggles, and in their brightest hopes. You understand that the very same life force breathing within you is breathing in them, an undeniable testament to shared existence. To awaken in this profound way is to truly come home to the undeniable truth that you are and always have been whole and complete. You return to your original untainted nature, fearless, utterly innocent, brimming with inherent wisdom and endless possibility, radiant with a love that knows no bounds. Very few individuals embark on and persist along this path to its ultimate depths, for it demands profound devotion. It asks that you yearn for awakening more passionately than for comfort, more than for any illusion of certainty. It necessitates immense patience, unwavering courage, and considerable time. But when it finally blossoms, it isn't a prize to be won and possessed. It is simply a profound way of being. This final stage is life authentically lived in unwavering unity, in harmonious flow, and in limitless unconditional love. The tenacious illusion of separation finally dissolves, and every single moment becomes an exquisite, direct expression of the divine spark that resides within all beings. From this elevated state, the journey doesn't culminate. Rather, it beautifully begins anew, bursting forth in joy, in freedom, and in unadulterated wonder. Awakening is not some elusive destination awaiting you on a distant horizon. It is vividly here, precisely now, within the steady rhythm of your beating heart, in the gentle movement of breath through your lungs, in the quiet, astonishing miracle of simply being alive. And perhaps the most beautiful and liberating discovery of all is this undeniable truth. Life has never, ever been against you. Even in your deepest struggles, it has continuously been shaping you, gently leading you, meticulously preparing you for this very moment, the moment you could finally see. So, when you re-engage with your life after taking in these insights, walk a little lighter. View the world not as an adversary to be conquered, but as an ever-present partner, a profound teacher, a cherished friend. Trust deeply that you are being inherently guided. Trust unequivocally that you belong. And above all else, love life with every fiber of your being, because in the beautiful end, to truly awaken is simply to remember that you and life are one, and that this entire magnificent dance has always been perfectly for you.